Hi, it's Lynn, your adulting coach. This morning, my 27-year-old shared that they hadn't slept well that night. Now, and they were tired. Now, this was after working until about 1 or 2 and not having the easiest day, but having an opportunity to recover all afternoon and that evening and then all night. I believe that they were still in alarm from the anxiety of trying to manage the work that they do. And I am determined to help her figure out how to decondition those alarms, those chronic alarms, so that the healing can happen and they can handle the hurt from those alarms and move forward and recover and be resilient. This is what I'm going to teach today is how we do it, and it's directly informed by Dr. Russell Kennedy, who wrote the book Anxiety RX, and at least a dozen of other teachers that I've read. This is really well researched, and I believe that it works because it has worked for me as well as for my kids. So here it is. Anxiety has two parts. It has the alarm that happens in our body. That's first where we go, uh-oh, that intake, that whoosh that happens, that we feel. And then our brain kicks into action shortly after, trying to figure out, is this a real threat to my existence, or what's really going on here? And that's its job. Its job is to make meaning from whatever has occurred. And what can happen, though, is that those anxious thoughts can just go from the body to the brain, feeling that anxiety over and over and over again. And those thoughts are usually warnings, what ifs, and worst case scenarios. This is our brain, again, trying to make sure that we're going to survive. It's done a really good job. We're at the top of the food chain. And yet in our modern society, most of our challenges, most of our threats are as a result of our thoughts, are psychological. So we're not, physically threatened all the time, although we have been in the past in most cases. So what we want to do, this is what we want to do. We want to find and feel that alarm in our body. In my case, it's really right there. It's almost always right there. I've talked to people, though, recently, members of the Art of Adulting, where the tension, they feel it in their neck. Others feel it in their digestive system, in their belly. So it can be, most of the time it's in this midline area, somewhere where our tension just tends to go. And when we have that tension, we pay attention. Now what we want to do, instead of feeding it, we want to feel that alarm. We want to separate our brain from our body and just spend some time in our body. Say, hold on a minute, thoughts. I'm just going to let this feel. I'm going to feel this. I'm going to allow it. I'm going to notice that it feels like a blue ball of lightning, and it's sending sparks out into my body. It's very uncomfortable. I don't like it, but I can handle it. And if we allow that to happen, it will fade. If we feel it long enough, it will fade after about 60 to 90 seconds. Try it. You won't believe it. What the thing is that we have been resisting, that feeling that we don't want to feel, will go away if we allow it to be there for about a minute to a minute and a half. The next thing that we want to do is we really just want to stay separate. We want to say, okay, I've got my body doing this thing, but I'm going to notice what my thoughts are, and I'm going to write some of those down. It's like, or record them in some way. It's like, what are the thoughts I'm worried about so much? And let's just get them, scribed somewhere so that we can look at them separate. We are not our thoughts. We have much more to us than just that ticker tape parade of thoughts going across our head. So let's just separate them out and get a little bit of space so we can look at them. Then the next step is to focus compassion on our inner child. Well, that's a leap. So let me explain where that comes from. Often in our childhood, we had alarms occur that we just didn't know how to handle. There was abuse. It could be physical, it could be sexual. Something happened that just, we could not handle it at that time. We just didn't have the skills. Or we had a loss that we suffered. It could be a family member, a favorite pet, or a blanket, an item that was really important to us. We could have been abandoned by our teachers when maybe we were being bullied and no one was there to notice or to, really take control of that situation that we at that time, at that age, could not solve. We've been rejected enough, we've been othered by, imagine the times that our autistic graduates were othered in school. It was probably, on the regular. We've asked them to mature too early to handle those types of situations. I mean, when they are being othered, they don't have the skills yet. We didn't have the skills yet as children to really understand what was happening and know how to manage that. And they're ashamed because they are different. And they know they're different, and they've known they're different for a while because they're just not going along with the middle of the bell-shaped curve. They're different, and thank goodness they are who they are. We don't want to change them, but they feel the shame for that. So these alarms, ALARMS, they come at our kids on the regular. So it's not hard for them to imagine a time in their earlier days when that younger child couldn't manage what was happening. And we want to give it compassion. This is how we heal. We imagine ourselves at that age, and we figure out, we just can picture it. We can figure out what our thoughts were at that time, what we were feeling at that time, the shame that, you can just feel the blush come through your face of the shame of not doing it right or not being good enough. And of course, at that time, we couldn't reject the school system. We didn't have the power to that, or even if it was happening in our home, we couldn't reject our home, so we turn it inward and we reject ourselves. And that manifests itself today as jabs: judgment, abandonment, blame, and shame of ourselves. Oh my. Really interesting to notice that the source of that inner critic is probably childhood experiences that we didn't have the tools and skills to handle and felt like we weren't good enough. Good to know. Imagine our children, our graduates, have this happening inside of their heads on the regular as well. So we don't want to get mad. We don't want to take medications to numb or go out and find addictions to escape, like drinking or alcohol or drugs or screens or whatever it is, porn, whatever it is. And we don't want to just distract ourselves. That's where the screens come in. That's where a lot of us distract ourselves. Food is another addiction distraction. They kind of are similar. So we don't want to get mad. What we really want to do is learn from them. We need to stop rejecting. This is a stretch. Stop rejecting and start loving those alarms for what they tell about us and the patterns that we have had since children that are just not working for us now. They're not creating the life that we love. They are not moving us forward to take those right actions that are going to give us what we want in the long run. We want to start thinking, I have a choice. I can either win or learn. This is not a right or wrong choice anymore. It's a winning or a learn choice. This is how I'm going to take my life forward. I'm going to either win or I'm going to learn what's going on. What's going on for me? So these are the 3 steps. Again, we want to find and feel our alarm. Then we want to separate the alarm in our bodies from our thoughts up here and focus on being compassionate for our younger child, our younger self, who came up with these solutions, doing the very best they could, and they became patterns that may not be serving us today. And that's how we decondition those alarms. This is all inspired by Dr. Russell Kennedy, who wrote the book Anxiety RX. It's just a wonderful explanation of what's going on. Like I said, I have 12 other teachers that teach these concepts, but he packaged it in a way that I'm sharing with you today that I find very clear and easy to figure out how we're going to apply this to our life. He also has an online course, MBRX, Mind Body Prescription, that's only $100, and inside there are 2 wonderful meditations, and he called it a yoga nidra, where he thinks this process, he's borrowed it from the Eastern wisdom, that will help us decondition our nervous system and enable us to rest and recover from the alarms in our body, and so that we can heal ourselves from them happening. And I just encourage you to explore his resources, and hopefully come inside the Art of Adulting with your graduates so that we can really bring some of these lessons right to you at the right time so that you can solve the problems and outsmart the struggles together. Bye for now.